So the title of this video is In Other Words, Paraphrasing and Summarizing Academic Texts. And the reason we're focusing on paraphrase and summary is because in your first project, you're going to be writing a summary of What is Literacy by James Paul G, attempting to take some of those difficult academic ideas from G about the nature of discourse and present them in a summary essay to an audience that perhaps has never heard of G or his ideas before. And so in at least 1.5 pages, 3 to 5 paragraphs, your job in this essay is going to be to paraphrase and summarize G and What is Literacy. And so here's some important points about what summary writing is. A summary describes a text's main purpose, ideas, and examples in a condensed form. And so a summary is shorter than the text you are summarizing. Right? And so what a summary does not do is attempt to take every idea that's in a text and describe those ideas. A summary tries to take the main ideas, right? So a shorter version describing the main ideas of an academic text, focused on using your own words for describing those ideas. And so a summary uses not the exact words of the author, but really in simpler and in clear language attempts to say, here's what this essay is about, here's what it's attempting to do. So a summary is all about the essay that you're summarizing, right? So it's objective. A summary is not about what you think about the essay, your opinion, your own examples. It's objective, all right? Our subsequent essays, our Project 2, Project 3, that's going to be about your ideas and your thoughts. A summary, however, attempts to describe someone else's ideas. Our summary for this class is going to be 3 to 5 paragraphs, which will be about 1.5 pages double-spaced. In other kinds of writing, you'll hear a summary called an abstract that's used in many different kinds of fields, where before someone starts reading an article, they read this summary about, well, what is this article going to tell me, and will I find it useful or not? So you're writing a summary. You can also think about this project as writing an extended abstract. So a key skill that a summary requires is paraphrasing, which is the ability to use your own words to describe the main ideas of a text. And notice that I am emphasizing your own words. I want to know, after reading your summary, so let's do some examples for paraphrasing. This is directly from G. What you can do at this point in the video, if you want, is you can stop it, and you can take a look at this from G, and you can ask yourself, how would I paraphrase these couple of sentences? So go ahead and pause the video if you want to try paraphrasing this, and then I'll show you an example of my paraphrase. So here is my paraphrase of what G says above, that is a piece of folk wisdom that part of what linguistics do is define words, and over a decade as a linguist, however, no one has asked me to define a word. So my first try, what does literacy mean? That's about 3 sentences. And notice at the in my paraphrase, I've put it into 1 sentence. Paraphrases take something a little longer, make them a little shorter, and I say G's approach in the essay is to define the word literacy, marking the first time that he, as a linguist, is attempting to define a specific word. Same idea, but I've cut out some of the things about folk wisdom and over a decade to just try to get down to the main idea of that quote from G. Let's take a look at another example. Again, if you want to, pause the video and see how would you paraphrase this. The examples I'm using are things that I'm not actually sure that you'll be paraphrasing yourself. In other words, I'm using examples that I'm not sure you'll actually be paraphrasing. So let's look at how I paraphrase this. So I will use the word as a count term, a discourse, discourses, many discourses, not as a mass term, discourse, much discourse. Right? And I say, and it's still a little bit shorter, in the way that G uses discourse, discourses can be distinguished from each other and counted individually. Notice what I'm doing in both of my paraphrases is I'm referring to G, his name, and I'm saying G uses blah, blah, blah. G's approach is blah, blah, blah. That's what you want to be doing constantly throughout your summary, is framing the summary in terms of what G's doing. So in certain parts it might be G explains. In other parts it might be that G describes or argues or questions. These are what are known as active verbs, present tense verbs that accurately describe what G's doing in the essay. G is explaining or G is questioning something. You should be using the appropriate active verbs throughout your summary. Next week we'll go over some active verbs, right? But what I want you to be doing is thinking about when you are summarizing, well, what is G doing in his essay? Now someone's hammering behind me as I record this, so I apologize. So let's talk a little bit about the structure. So first of all, what goes into paragraph 1 of a summary? Well, the full name of the author, for one, the full name of the essay title in quotation marks, and the thesis or main ideas from the essay in your own words. So that the first paragraph is really laying out for someone who hasn't read What is Literacy before, who wrote it, what the name of the text is, properly formatted in quotation marks, and then what's the thesis or main idea of the text. Not what is every idea from the text, because that's what's going to go into the rest of the summary, but what's the main idea, the main concept. And then you want to make sure that your paragraphs are at least 5 sentences. Subsequently in the essay, and what's going to go into the body paragraphs are, first of all, you'll be referring to G by only his last name after the first time you mention him in the first paragraph. So that's sort of the rule on names. When you bring up the author's name the first time, you use the full name. But every other time, you just use the last name. So G, you'll be saying a lot. And you'll be paraphrasing the most important terms and examples from G. Again, not everything from the essay. And how those concepts relate to each other. So essentially, you're retelling the story of the essay in the most important parts of it, right? Attempting to connect the terms together, but also attempting to connect your paragraphs together through transitions. And again, and this is something that I want you to be counting when you write, which are the sentences in your paragraphs. They should be at least 5 sentences, if not more, for a good substantial paragraph. All right, so when you first start approaching summary writing, which we'll be doing next week, you want to just be asking yourself the basic question, what are the most important points and examples to include? Knowing you can't include everything. And then go over the textbook reading. There's a sample summary in the textbook reading that'll give you a good idea of what a summary looks like. Okay, so overall, what you should know after watching this video is how to define summary writing, how to define what paraphrasing is, how to begin paraphrasing, how to use active verbs, a better sense of the first essay and how it will be structured, and remember again to read those pages from your textbook. Next week, after you do your blog posts, which are again posted under Documents on Angels, so your homework for next week, which is finishing What is Literacy, finishing your questions for What is Literacy, and then writing a little bit about summary writing. You'll do that, and then I'll unveil what the assignment is going to look like specifically for this first essay. You'll be drafting your summary, and I'll be giving you some response to your summary as well. So watch this video again, read the textbook, become a expert on summary writing, and I will see you next week.